What is up, gamers and YouTubers? JC here back, and today we're finally going to go over the beautiful $500 PC build that I've been telling you guys I would do, as mentioned, as a console breaker, just in case for these next generation consoles you're not too into getting a console. And if it's all about the controller, you can always hook up with Xbox 360 controller to your PC, and you can always play PC games on the Xbox 360 controller. Up first, we're going to go with the Thermaltake version 3 Black Edition mid-tower gaming case. This case is a very smooth and sleek design, has a lot of airflow in it, and comes with a 120mm rear-mounted blue LED fan on the back. You can upgrade to a total of 420mm fans. This case also has, unlike many mid-tower game cases, has plenty of room for upgrades such as a really beefy graphics card such as the GTX 690 or the Radeon 7990. They're the biggest cards on the market today, and they will fit in this case with no problem. This whole case comes around $30. Up next, we got the motherboard. It's going to be the ASRock Micro ATX motherboard, FM2A75 Pro 4-M. I know that was a very long name, but that's the name of the motherboard. So this is an FM2 socket motherboard. It has 4 DIMM slots for memory, giving you a total upgrade ability of 32 gigabytes. This also has 2 16x slots for graphics cards, although one slot only runs at full 6. The other one runs at 4x, which is not recommended for graphics card use, so this motherboard is not meant for SLI configuration. Next, you'll also see a PCI Express 1X slot, as well as a standard PCI slot. This whole motherboard comes in around $70. Up next, we got our AMD Athlon X4 750K. This is a 4 GHz turbo boost processor. It runs at 100 watts and uses the FM2 socket, as mentioned before by our motherboard. This processor will give you all the power that you need to run any game on the market today, and this processor in gaming is very comparable to the i5, whether it be the 3rd or 4th generation processor. And this processor comes to market about $80. Up next, we got our Corsair Vengeance 4 GB of RAM, runs at 1600 MHz. This is low profile memory. I wanted to go with low profile memory for this build simply because it gives you more options on your air cooling when you get to that point. This RAM comes to market about $50. Up next, guys, let's talk about the power supply, and we got a Kentech 850 watt power supply. Gives you plenty of room for upgrades such as SLI and, well, beefy processors that require 100 watts. This processor comes to market around $46. It is the most bang for your buck power supply out there, and that is because it kind of has poor cable management, but it's a really good power supply. It's the one I use, and for its graphics card capabilities, it has a 16-pin power connector as well as a 6+2-pin power connector. But if you ever needed to run 2 beefy cards in SLI, you can always use the Molex cables and use the converters that usually come with the graphics cards if that's needed to create your 6 and 8 pin connectors. Similar power supplies will come in around $200, so for a $200 to $46 comparison, this is the best buy that you can have, as well as the most power you can get in your system. Now let's talk about storage, guys. Now I wanted to make this build perfect and it was going to last you a while, so we're actually going to go with a 1 terabyte 7200 RPM Western Digital Blue hard drive. It has 64 megabytes of cache, which just makes it just that much faster, and this comes around $68. Up next is going to be your DVD drive. Now DVD drive, you can do Blu-ray if you'd like for another $20, but I wanted to go with the DVD drive mostly because you don't need DVD player that much in a computer. Everything's mostly digital, games, things like that, but you need a DVD drive at least to install things like your drivers and stuff for all your new PC parts. So I wanted to include this, and this is going to be the Asus DVD drive as well as a DVD burner, and it's going to come in around $22. Up next, guys, we got the card that's going to power it all. It's going to be the Radeon HD 7850 2GB card. This card has a core clock of 860 megahertz and has 1024 stream processors, which is enough to run just about any game on the market today. Alright guys, now that you have heard all the specs to the computer, they will all be found in the description below, but I wanted to go a little detailed, so I did a lot of research for this build, and I wanted to kind of give you some frame rates on what you can experience in game. Now this setup, of course, is not meant for huge 3-monitor setups. This is meant for like a single monitor setup, but you can eventually upgrade the graphics card, which will allow you to power 3 monitors. So I just wanted to get into a game that everybody's familiar with, and that's going to be Battlefield 3. The type of frame rates you can expect from this full 1080p ultra settings is you can expect somewhere between 46 and 55 frames per second on average. So sometimes it does dip up to about 70 frames, and sometimes it'll dip down to about 40 frames. But on average it stays around, but for the most part it stays pretty high on its averages. Now we want to talk about something that everybody says is a very demanding game, and that's going to be Metro Last Light. Now of course you're not going to be able to run everything at full settings like the SSAA, which is the anti-aliasing. So the recommended settings for this card is going to be something like texture quality on high and the SSAA off, as well as the tessellation you can leave on, as well as the tessellation I would recommend leaving on low. But for the most part it's still a beautiful game, and you cannot really tell a difference between the SSA on or off. So it runs a really smooth game, coming in about 35 to 45 frames per second. Alright guys, so that's what you can get on some of the most demanding games on the market today. Now that you've heard the type of frame rates you'll be able to expect on some of the most demanding games on the market today, let's talk about a couple things that are optional. And for some of you it might be a requirement, and that is going to be things like a Wi-Fi card, which I'll leave in the description below. It's going to be around $20, and another heavy upgrade for people that are planning to do YouTube, start doing any video recording of gameplay. I recommend getting the Avermedia Live Gamer HD, simply because this takes all the load off of your GPU and it takes all the load off of your CPU, allowing you to still consistently run at those high frame rates that your computer can, unlike programs such as Fraps or Dxitory, which lower your frame rates when playing at high resolutions and high settings. That'll come in around $170. Be sure to check out the rest of my channel, check out some more of my videos. I do a lot of gameplay videos, and I hope you guys enjoyed. This has been JC. Peace! Alright guys, I forgot to mention one thing, that I did not include the operating system in this build or the price, because some people I know might already have a spare operating system, or they'll find another way of getting the OS. Not that I encourage that, but you might have another way of getting it. I, on the other hand, had a separate one I got a separate copy of the operating system with my Alienware that I got a while ago, so I used that on my new build. So, anyway guys, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe.